Hey guys, Big Square, road2ruta.com. This is a fire update. There is progress being made, but we're long from over. Um, the death count is now 40 that they've confirmed, but dozens are still missing. Here's a little update on what's going on. Firefighters made significant progress Sunday on two of the biggest wildfires raging across Northern California, but officials cautioned that they still face major challenges. The wind that bedeviled firefighters Saturday remained mostly calm, allowing them to go back on the offense after a day of new evacuations. It was very, very windy this weekend, but it's just dead calm right now. And I want to show you something that is very odd that I haven't seen in a while in Northern California, and that is chemtrails. They have been spraying like mad for the last 24 hours. As a matter of fact, I just walked outside and voila, that's right out my front door. And it's been going on all morning. The skies are much clearer. They might have been spraying while the smog was in the air. See, the winds blew the smog out and the smoke and all that. It was a perfectly blue sky, and then they just spraying everywhere. So I don't know if they were spraying above the smoke before, but it's been a long time since the spraying has been going on. So I do think this is related to the fire one way or the other. I don't know what. I know there's a lot of conspiracy theories out there about chemtrails and spraying and the heat of the flames of this fire. Again, I have been through this type of thing before in 1991, the Oakland fire. All the houses behind me right there, those are all new built since 1991. And in those fires, yes, everything was gone except the chimneys and the masonry and all the ovens and stuff was all crumpled, but it was still there. So there are questions to be answered about what was it that happened in Santa Rosa that wiped out blocks and there was no chimneys and all that. But having said that, I know how fast these can happen and the winds, and it is crazy. But seeing all these chemtrails got me thinking again about chemtrails. And I've done a lot of research on this stuff. I don't think I have a full answer. I know part of the problem and part of the solution, but I will point out that if you look at the forecast for the next, and you look at the wind for the next couple of days, it is like 2 miles per hour, 3 miles per hour, 4 miles, and when it was 30, 40, 50 miles per hour. So the wind has pretty much died, and they will be able to get a handle on it. But these fires will probably burn for about a month. But they're really getting a handle on it. 50% containment in most of them, and that's a good thing. Now, if the winds start up again, I would blame the chemtrails. It's just the way I would. But it's hard to tell if the chemtrail and spraying in our atmosphere and geoengineering is something that is being done to kill us or to save us. If you go to the Road to Ruta website at road2ruta.com, there's a part on the left side has all these tabs, and I hope everybody's been to the website, and you can click on resources. On the resources tab, I have a whole bunch of articles, the gold in the Grand Canyon, Bitcoin stuff, geoengineering. But this very first paper on geoengineering, now it's a little airy-fairy for some people, and it's a little too scientific at times for some people. It really combines both the scientific with the potential spiritual side. And if you read this article, and it's not too long, it's about 12 pages, it really gets down to what I think is a good explanation of what is happening. Now, Cliff Hyde thinks it's something different. Cliff Hyde thinks the sun is shrinking, and obviously the sun is changing. The sun is white now. I think the sun is expanding, but it might be optical illusion. I don't know. But if you read this article, they talk about the expansion of the sun and what is going on. And according to this article, the sun is expanding. We're at a more dense part of the Milky Way, where a lot more matter as the sun moves through the Milky Way at very fast, shall we say, it burns up all the matter that's in space. The vacuum that we think space is only because we're behind the coma of the sun that's moving. The sun is a what do they call it? It's going around the Milky Way at like 100,000 miles an hour. I don't know the exact number, but it's moving fast, and we're spiraling behind, being dragged by the sun. That's where the vacuum comes from, because the sun is plowing the way and leaving a vacuum behind it, except on the sides. That's why we can't get out the sides, supposedly. But it talks about this in this paper, and it's a really interesting paper, and has all the scientific evidence that you need, and it talks about the conspiracy guys too. Here's Dave Wilcock. It says the sun heats in quantum steps, not a smooth transition. So as it's going along, it's hitting all this matter that is, call it dark matter, call it whatever you want. But there is matter in space, and we're just in the coma, like I said, and that is a vacuum. But so it's burning up all this stuff. The sun's getting bigger because it's burning up all this stuff, and it gets into the radio waves that are being bombarded towards Earth, and is causing the Earth expansion stuff that we've talked about before. And that's why in this article it talks about what, we've known about this since the 50s. The solar transition is happening, and then it talks about the post-transition. So the sun's getting bigger. As it gets bigger, the Earth has to get bigger, and the Earth pulls away even further away from the sun, so we don't, burn up. Post-transition. Let's talk about this briefly here. Time to put the pieces together. The sun is getting hotter from all the dust and debris the solar system is now experiencing. The increased fuel will increase the thermal destructive limit, which will cause a corresponding increase in magnetic ionization level, which will make more elements available for the stellar combustion process. The sun is going to get brighter and hotter. Initially, this will occur as bright flashes like mini novas until significant material is available to hold the magnetic ionization limit at the next quantum step. At that time, the sun will suddenly jump up in stellar class and remain there. The transition should be interesting. When the magnetic ionization level of the sun increases, it will be like throwing a cup of gasoline on a barbecue grill coals. A burst of flame and thermal activity, so much that it will move the thermal speeds past the speed of light. This inverse thermal emission actually occurs frequently on a small scale and is documented proof. And so they go into all the proof. And then post-transition. This is what we really care about. Will we survive it? After the transition is complete, the sun will be physically larger, brighter, and more white than yellow, and hotter than before, and is going to stay that way. One would think that this is a situation that would make the inner planets go up like marshmallows burning on a campfire. But curiously, this is not the case. Seems that whoever designed stars and planets considered this and used the energy of transition to aid in the further evolution of life. What will happen is that due to the increased FTL motion of the sun, the gravitational balance of the solar system will change. FTL motion is anti-gravitational, so the sun will literally push the planets further outward in their orbits in compensation. The year will get longer. Being further from the sun, the planet will survive and establish a new ecosystem, but a different one. The changes in the sun will also produce changes in the planets, particularly the electromagnetic alignment of the poles. As has been noticed in geologic records, the north and south poles of the planet have been in various locations across the globe. Not because the poles are moving, but because the crust of the planet is moving relative to the mantle and core. There's also a high degree of probability that it will even trigger a core flare, an expansion event of FTL matter in the core dropping to sublight speeds, causing the crust of the Earth to expand and open at tectonic boundaries, eventuating in more surface area and a drop in the ocean levels as compensation. In my opinion, the solar transition is the harvest, or the ascension, due to the state for life on Earth. Not just man, all life on Earth. All the physical properties get kicked up a notch, as Emerald will say, commonly known as higher density or higher dimension. And so NASA knew about this back in the 50s, and they did a study, and they came up with three alternatives at the time. One, use nuclear weapons to blow holes in the atmosphere to let the increasing heat out. Number two, create huge underground cities to live in until the sun stabilized, which they did in the past. If you're into any of the stuff that was going on in the Grand Canyon, there's huge underground caverns and cities all over the world. There are, and they're being found out right now. And number three, get the heck off Earth. The first one is a bit preposterous, as it could not be pulled off without public knowledge. So they started the number two and number three. That's what you've heard about, the government creating these huge underground bases. That's what that was all about. And number three, that's NASA trying to get off Earth. The underground bunker approach was simple enough, as one of the features of HAARP, the High Altitude Active Auroral Research Program, was that it was able to probe well beneath the surface of the Earth looking for oil and minerals, but also identified large caverns that would make excellent cities for them to stockpile and ride out the transition. NASA came into existence shortly after this report was issued, some believe as a direct consequence of Alternative 3, which is get off the Earth. And so those in the 1950s, that was the plan, and then they came up with a new plan. We could just change the Earth to make it more easily survive what's happening to the sun. So that's where we get to geoengineering, customizing the planet. The first thing they had to deal with was the sun getting a lot brighter from the combustion of dust and debris, now present in significant quantities in the solar system. They needed to come up with a way to create a global dimming effect to block off this bright light. Aluminum, a nice, lightweight, and very abundant element, works rather well for that, as most of our mirrors today are coated with aluminum. Nanoparticles distributed in the troposphere would increase the albedo of the Earth and turn the upper atmosphere into a partially reflecting mirror. This has the result of global dimming on the surface. The next problem is the X-ray bursts. The Van Allen belts protect the Earth from the most particulate radiation that comes from CMEs, but that magnetic field barely slows down the X-rays. Fortunately, back in the 1950s, a technology became available that had to address a similar problem. The cathode ray tubes, or CRTs. CRTs were large X-ray emitters pointed right at the person watching the screen. To get this technology out, they had to develop something to block X-rays but not interfere with the picture. They tried lead, but after being bombarded with X-rays for a while, a lead film turned brown and messed things up. It was okay for the sides of the tube, but not the picture screen. Searching around, they found a couple of oxides that did an excellent job at blocking X-rays and stayed viable for a long time without browning it. That was a combination of barium and strontium. If you've ever heard people who've analyzed the soils above where they were spraying chemtrails, it's always aluminum, barium, and strontium, and this is why. I'm not going to read the rest. It's all there for you on the educational resources section of the Road to Ruta. So go to roadtoruta.com, go down a little bit, and you'll see resources right here. While you're there, sign up for your free updates. I send emails out as I learn things and let you know what's going on. But click on the resources. There's a lot of great stuff there, but the geoengineering is the first tab right here. So is all the spraying that's going on right now related to the fires? I think it's more than a coincidence. I don't know if it's good, bad, or indifferent, but I do know that if you look at the weather right now, the wind has absolutely died, and this is for the next 10 days or so. No, the next week. We're going to have very little winds, lower temperatures than usual, so high humidity. I heard there's even talk of rain sometime next week, which is all good. So clearly they're not spraying to make things worse, as far as I can tell right now. But we will see. Yes, it's conspiratorial, but this is an absolute fact, that we have not had chemtrails much at all in Northern California over the past few months, and now all of a sudden they're spraying like mad, is a clear correlation to the fires versus controlling the atmosphere. I heard there's a new movie coming out too, I think next week, on Geostorm, which is, I mean, if you look at how Hollywood kind of leaks in things that we're supposed to get used to, I think people need to really quickly understand that we've been able to control the weather for at least, who knows, over 100 years, really. If you read some of the research going back to the early 1900s, yeah, they've been controlling the weather for so long, but they don't tell us about it. They don't tell us about anything, truthfully. But that's where we are. I do think the spraying that's going on right now is related to the fires, and given that the news coming out of Northern California is better than it was, the winds have absolutely died down, and there's a whole lot of spraying going on. I think they have made the decision to unleash some geoengineering above Northern California to help the problem. We will find out, though, in the next coming weeks. This is Bix Weir, roadtoroota.com. I'll talk to you later.